one thing I did want to mention was this very interesting point that's been made by Aaron Bastani, which is that the Labour Party's General Secretary, they have decided to no longer publish the Labour Party's membership figures, which is really funny.
Well, yeah, because it'd be very embarrassing when it gets down to 7.
Aaron points out it's probably because Reform are close to overtaking them in numbers, right?
Yeah.
Because in February, that's the last time they had an official reporting on how many members were in the party still, which is 309,000. Now, that sounds like a lot, and at the time, that was still the biggest party in the country. But this is worth comparing it to the fact that under Jeremy Corbyn, the membership was 600,000. So you've got to assume that that's more than double what it is now if they kept losing members at the same rate as they were in the months up to February. And that's a lot of money, right? It's at the £35, I think, per year it is.
Yeah.
So 300,000 members losing £35 a year. That's like 10 million they're losing.
So they'll be getting all of those bongs and kickbacks that the Tories were getting for all of those years.
Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you? You'd think so. That they could replace the £10 million a year they've lost in revenue from memberships and then replace it with corporate donations. But what's also very funny is this other story, which is that the Labour Party are unable to balance their books this year.
Well, they are not fixing the foundations of their own house.
It's just so funny to me that they essentially made the gamble, they had the gambit that we can lose all of these left-wing members. We can no longer be a mass movement party anymore.
I think you mean get rid of the fleas.
Well, yeah, they can shake off the fleas, as they kept saying that it was, They could eject the Trotskyists and they could replace all the membership subs that they'd lost with money from corporate donations, and that would be enough to tie them over. But that isn't true, right? So this is coming from Labour List. The party is operating under a recovery plan for 2025.
Okay.
With the aim of bringing finances to a planned but manageable deficit. So it's not even a plan to get them back into the black. It's to make the deficit they're in manageable.
Well, exactly. The reason I laugh is because I was watching a thing earlier about disasters and stuff. And when they move from rescue to recovery, is when they go from, it's a lot. There might be people who are alive to, no, they're definitely all dead. We just need to find the bodies. And that's the state that Labour Party are currently in. Like, they're definitely dead, but their rotting bodies are a health hazard, so we're going to just dig them up and bury them in a mass pit.
So the number that they've gone with, that they need at least £4 million to fight elections in 2026.
Okay, yeah, I can't wait.
Which is obviously a huge amount of money, because this was the exact same number for the biggest political donation in British history, which was the £4 million that they got from Quadrature Capital in the last week before they had to declare the donation before reporting for the election, right? So that's a lot of money. That's literally half of what they've lost due to all of the members dropping off from the party from their height of 600k to around 300k.
Have they considered cutting back on avocado toast?
I wonder. Maybe they just need a few more dresses being bought for their wives to be able to afford.
Honestly, I don't think he's going to be able to afford all of those tickets to the Arsenal anymore. I think he needs to cut his cloth accordingly. Okay, they run a tight ship and a household budget like a business.
Speaking of which, the document that's been seen by Labour List says that it is in a difficult financial position with a staff pay freeze and strict vacancy controls in place as it seeks to stabilise finances.
They're even austeritying themselves. Oh, Jesus. They're obsessed. It's an addiction. They're mainlining at the crack of Cameronism.
The problem, of course, is that when you are the government, you can always issue bonds.
Yeah.
You are a sovereign currency issuer. Unfortunately, the Labour Party is not that. They do have to operate like it's a household budget. And unfortunately, they didn't budget for all of the people who funded them going, don't want to do that anymore. I think you might have pissed me off a little bit too much.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I mean, that's the thing as well, is that you've got to remember is that they've also lost a bunch of union money. So
good. They should lose all of it. Literally, a Labour council here in Birmingham, with the support of the national government, Labour, are using scab private labour to undermine Unite, the biggest contributor to the Labour Party outside of, Quadriga Capital and all the rest of it, to undermine their workers and their members. Why are you giving them money? Why are you doing that? You're paying to be in an abusive relationship.
It's true. It's absolutely true. It is an abusive relationship. Obviously, Sharon Graham's kind of first edict, really, as leader, was saying, no, with no more blank checks for Labour and cutting it to the minimum of affiliation fees, and without actually going full hog and giving them even more money otherwise. It's just the affiliation fees they're giving. And, of course, they lost a union. They lost the Bakers Union. And they didn't have, a huge amount of contributing funds, but it was certainly not nothing. And they left explicitly over the decision to not restore the whip to Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, fair, absolutely fair enough. Yeah, so they've lost the baker's dough. It's dough because that's another way of saying money as well.
Apparently, they spent £30 million on the general election.
How do you spend that much money and yet be that shit?
Gain no votes.
Yeah, to literally gain no votes. 30 million quid. What did they spend that on exactly? Because it wasn't a decent comms team. I know that much.
I don't know, the Alan Gillorena's Battle Bus adverts on Facebook. I mean, apparently, according to this article as well, that if they can't find a way of plugging the gaps in their income, they might actually have to borrow money to stay afloat, which is a recipe for kind of long-term disaster.
But aren't there important fiscal rules around borrowing? That sounds like they're trying to borrow for everyday spending, which, no.
That's true. They're literally violating their own fiscal rules when it comes to their own party's internal workings, which is quite funny. What's also funny on top of this is that, as I said before, they were trying to replace the membership donations to fund their political campaigning with corporate money. Of course, that corporate money is not going to flow if they think that they're not going to be in government this time 2029, which of course it doesn't look like they're going to be. They have -50 approval rating.
Someone's just reminded me this is what they spent the money on, 30 million. Oh, guys, if I'd forgotten about the existence of this absolute banger. This is what 30 million quid gets you. Yeah, I mean, it's just furry bait. It's... just very weird.
Well, that 30 million quid, Kev, spent well.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Worth every penny. Look at it.
I, for one, am looking forward to the Labour Party's eventual bankruptcy, because that may cause the unions to be even more likely to disaffiliate.
True. And I'm looking forward to their bankruptcy so that their financial status can meet their moral status.
True. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for memberships. It's just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.